All right, I want to just highlight a few notes with regard to the text, the Hebrew text of Genesis 12, 1 to 9. Now I want to actually pick up at verse 31, the end of chapter 11, and the verb. One of the things you'll notice, and I've posted up on Blackboard, a Hebrew layout. One of the things that I find very helpful in looking at the biblical text, once I've gone through just a basic translation, is to look how the Hebrew text is organized through the verbal structures and how the layout. So I'm looking here at the first word of chapter 11, verse 31, the Hebrew vayikach. Now, as you work on this, with using your Bible software, but also I hope you're getting familiar with the Hebrew verbal structure through your grammar or intermediate grammar work, that this is from the verb lakach, and there are several verbs like lakach that begin with the lamed, where the lamed kind of functions like a noon or sometimes like a yod, and in this case, as you see, the vayikach, this is a vav consecutive. Some people describe it as a preterite form, a vav with the patak under it, a dagesh in the prefix of the imperfect, and then of course we have the dagesh also in the kof, which is taking place of the lamed, which has dropped out of this. So this is one of those verbs that, again, occurs hundreds of times in the Hebrew Bible. Vayikach, and he took. But you'll see that I've highlighted these vav consecutive forms, vav consecutive plus the imperfect, as is the beginning of chapter 12. The vayomer, here the verb amar, to say, as Yahweh said. So this is a vav consecutive imperfect, or vayiktos form, they sometimes refer to it, a sequential past tense movement in the text. So a sequencing of movements in the text is often signaled by the use of the vav consecutive and the imperfect, which again is one of those things that in the ancient languages of Western Semitic world, such as in Ugaritic, happens in Canaanite, Aramaic, and so forth, this vav consecutive plus the imperfect sends things into the past, but it's a way of connecting past events, and that's why it uses the imperfect, is it's the connective tissue of historical movement through the life of the characters being portrayed, or in this case, the work of God, who is, of course, the central character of the biblical text. Wherever you drop into the biblical text, God is the centerpiece, and it is his purposes that are being worked out. But again, Terah, in verse 31, begins the process as he takes, literally, brings with him Abram, his the son of Haran, then Beno Ve'et, Sarai, Kalato, it is his daughter-in-law, wife of Abraham, his son, and they go out from Ur of the Chaldees to go to the land of Canaan. That was to be the goal, but they stop in Haran, and that's where Terah dies. Now it's interesting, we have a Masoretic text question in the footnotes. If you look at the latter footnotes at the end of chapter 11 in your Hebrew Bible, your Biblia Hebraica Stucartensia, you'll note in verse 32 that there is an alternate reading of 145. The Hebrew text, the main text suggests that Terah dies at age 205, 5 years, and Matayim, 200. Remember, that's Mea is the word for 100. To do doubles, you do a dual ending, and so it's meatayim, not metim, but meatayim. But Walkie, likewise, as I would also agree with Walkie on this, because of some of the chronological problems created if we accept the 205 years, that the Samaritan Pentateuch reading of 145 would be preserved. The footnote also makes reference to the speech in Acts chapter 7. The chronologies make more sense if the Samaritan Pentateuch is corrected 145 rather than 205. That would have, by the way, in the following chronology, one of the problems that's created, as Waltke notes, if you accept the 205, then Abraham leaves before Terah dies. But the narrative would suggest that it is following the death of Terah, his father, that Abram, Sarai, and company make this journey. So back to the Hebrew text, again, the Vayikach, and it, of course, also connects, if you scroll down to verse 5. So you have Terah takes the larger family from Ur in southern Mesopotamia to upper Mesopotamia. He dies in Haran. There, then, God issues the call to Abraham to go to the land of Canaan and to be the blessing. And then after that message, the call of Abraham, and then the movements described in verse 4, God calls him to go, so he went. And then the connective tissue, Vayikach, again, like in 11 verse 31, the very first word. Now we have the second stage of movement, as it says that Abraham took Sarai, his wife, Sarai Ishto, the Edlot ben Achiv, Lot, his brother, and along with all the Rekusham, all their possessions that would include various servants of the household, which he had accumulated. Rakush in the noun form is the collection of things that Rakash verb is the word to collect or to accumulate. So all their accumulations that they had accumulated. There's a special term in Hebrew grammar. This is called a cognate accusative. That is the ve'et is in the accusative, you might say. It's the object of that. All the things, all the accumulation, their accumulations, which they had accumulated. A cognate simply means they're of the same Hebrew three-letter root. Rakash, the noun form rakush, which is built off a passive form of the verb rakash. And then it says all the hanefesh. Now, the word nefesh is one of those Hebrew words that has a wide semantic domain. Semantic domain describes the range of meaning. The word nefesh often is used like suke in the Greek, which would be the soul, but at other times it is describing individuals as a, it sometimes could be translated person or personhood. So it can refer to both the physical and metaphysical or incorporeal aspect of person. But here, following the sequence, and notice how I've aligned the text here with the ve'et. Again, that's very, very typical kind of Hebrew structure in laying out narrative, is to be repetitive. And in Hebrew, one of the things always that we talk about is highlighting. If something is done three times, like this text does, there are three ve'ets following Abraham, that one is to take note. So this movement involves family members, Sarai, his wife. Actually, there are 4 times. There's the Et Sarai, the Et, and if it does 4 times, it's even more of an emphasis. And finally, the Et Nefesh, Asher, Asa, Baharan. Everything that they had accomplished or made. So there were, again, they had spent time there with Terah's father and the larger family before they make this journey to the land of Canaan. But they accumulated property and possessions and persons, which they had somehow gained. This word asat is to make or to do or to accomplish while they were in Haran. And then the sequence shifts over. So Abraham took all these things and they go out vayet sa'u, laleket, artsah, Canaan. And so we call this telescopic narrative because he goes out, and he goes in. Bo, the Hebrew word for to go, is often used in the context of entering the land. So Yatsah, you remember, is to go out. So this is that Vayikto form, or the preterite, built upon the verb Yatsah, and the to go out. So he went out, they went out, to go to, the lamen here preceding the verb in the infinitive construct from halak, laleket, what we call sometimes a segalit infinitive construct form. So he went out to go artsah. Now here's eretz with the comet's hay on the end, which is our directional form. So we would describe it to go toward the land Canaan. Then vayabou, another Cal preterite form, the vayikto imperfect plus the vav consecutive, artsah, and so it repeats itself. And again, repetition is one of the stylistic rhetorical forms of Hebrew narrative. So one of the things we'll talk about in your literary analysis for the future, one of the things to look for is repetition in the narrative. So we have repetition of lakak, we have the fourfold va'et forms of all that which is brought with the patriarchal family as they go out and they come into then the land of Canaan.